in the heart of a crumbling neighborhood, where zinc roofs rattled in the wind and children ran barefoot across sandy streets.
There lived a young man named Daniel. He wasn't rich. No car, no big title. But in a place where survival was the anthem, Daniel was a rare kind of wealth. He sold electronics in the market. Phone chargers, power banks, used phones.
Some days were good, others barely enough.
Yet Daniel always gave. He was very generous. When Ruth's mother's son was sick, Daniel paid for the injections.
When little Victor lost his school bag, Daniel bought him another.
When the landlord threatened to throw Blessing's mother out, Daniel spoke to him and paid part of her rent.
He did it quietly.
No camera, no noise, just heart. Old neighbors will often say, "That boy Daniel, his heart is too soft for this world. May God protect him from people who don't know how to love back." But Daniel wasn't looking for applause. He believed every human deserved a little help, a little hope. Until one day, he saw her. Esther. She was returning from school with her books clutched to her chest, and hope written in her eyes. There was a calm dignity about her, not like the other girls who laughed loudly and are always seeking attention. Esther was different, studious, respectful, and when she greeted him with, "Good afternoon, Brother Daniel," it wasn't flirtatious, it was pure. He began to notice her more. How she always stopped to help children cross the road. How she taught other girls in the neighborhood how to read after school. How she carried water for her mother without complaining. One evening, as Daniel helped Charity's mother carry a bag of rice from her shop, he saw Esther again arguing gently with a water vendor. Esther responded, a bit frustrated. "But you said yesterday it would be 100 naira. Now you're saying 150? "It's not my fault, Auntie. Everything is expensive now," replied the water vendor. Daniel smiled faintly. Her strength, her grace even in small things. It stirred something in him. He waited till the vendor left, then walked over. "You handle yourself well. Even when the world squeezes people, you remain calm. That's rare around here." Esther smiled, a little embarrassed. "I just don't like being cheated. But thank you, Brother Daniel." "Just call me Daniel." "I trust you're doing well in school?" Daniel asked. Esther replied, "Trying my best. But honestly, I might not go further. My parents can't afford university, and the law program I want is expensive." That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. She reminded him of something pure, something unspoiled by this harsh world. He decided he would help, just like he helped the others. But this time, his heart was involved. Esther was hesitant when he offered to help, but after speaking to her parents and promising that his intentions were honorable, they agreed. Daniel paid for her JAN exams, for her university application. He even bought her new shoes for the matriculation. He'd stay late at his market stall just to gather enough for her accommodation. He sold off his old laptop to pay for her textbooks. Yet, he never made her feel like she owed him. Daniel, one evening, walking her to the bus park. "I'm not helping you because I want you to pay me back. I just believe in what you can become." Esther asked softly, "But why me?" Daniel replied, "Because when I look at you, I see a future worth building, and because I love you." There was silence. The noisy street around them seemed to fade. Esther turned, looking him in the eye, and said, "I know, Daniel. And it's not because you've helped me. I feel the same. You've shown me the kind of love that doesn't shout but speaks through action. I love you too." That was the beginning. They made plans, talked about the future, marriage, children. Esther said, giggling, "I want 2 boys and a girl." Daniel said, smiling, 3 girls. "So they'll all look like you." They built castles in the air, held together by loyalty, sacrifice, and a love that felt like destiny. But destiny had other plans.
The day Esther left for university was quiet. Daniel stood beside her parents as they loaded a small travel bag into a worn-out taxi. The sky was pale, uncertain, like the feeling in Daniel's heart. He smiled, though, because she was finally going to live her dream to study law. Esther hugged her mother tightly. "Pray for me, Mama." Her mother nodded, brushing her daughter's hair with trembling fingers. "You carry our prayers already, my child. Go and make us proud." Esther turned to Daniel last. Their eyes held each other. "You'll be fine," Daniel said. "This is the beginning of something beautiful." She reached for his hand. "Thank you, Daniel, for everything." Daniel didn't let go until the taxi began to move. And when it did, something shifted inside him. His world suddenly felt quieter. In the months that followed, Daniel poured himself into his small electronics shop and community service. He still gave out food items to the elderly in the neighborhood. He still bought notebooks and school shoes for the children who couldn't afford them. But his heart, it was always where Esther was. Their love survived on late-night calls, voice notes, and long text messages. Daniel would listen to her talk about lectures, her moot court trials, and her dreams to one day open her own firm. She admired how he always listened, never interrupted, and always ended every call with, "Just remember why you started." But time has a way of testing even the purest things. At school, Esther met Toby, a final-year student in political science. He wasn't loud or flashy, but he had a certain confidence that felt safe. He noticed her one afternoon in the law library and offered to help her find a textbook. "Don't worry, I've got it," she said politely. He smiled. "Even smart people need help sometimes. I'm Toby." Esther laughed softly. "I'm Esther. And I'm taken." "I figured," Toby replied. "But friends don't cross boundaries. I just like helping people." And he did just that. He helped carry her books after class, sat beside her during departmental events, left her encouraging notes before her mock trials. He never asked for anything, he just gave. And slowly, the boundaries of friendship blurred. One night, after her law school admission was confirmed, she called Daniel. "I'm scared," she said. "Law school is a different beast." "You've come too far to fear now," he said. "I believe in you." And she did believe him. But something inside her was changing. A quiet conflict. Toby still never asked her out, but she could feel it in the way he looked at her. And somehow, she began to compare. Daniel was love. Toby was peace. Time passed. After law school, everything shifted. She came home with a certificate, a new level of awareness, and a heavier heart. Her parents held a small celebration in the compound. But Daniel noticed the difference in her hugs. They were shorter. Her eyes distracted. That evening, she sat with her mother in the kitchen, chopping vegetables. "Mama," she began, "what if what we thought was love was actually just gratitude?" Her mother paused. "Why would you ask that?" Esther took a breath. There's someone else. He's good, kind, stable. Her mother's hands froze. You mean Toby, she said flatly. You've told me about him. Esther nodded. He wants to marry me. Her mother dropped the knife. No, Esther. Don't do this. What about Daniel? That young man has done everything for you. He made your journey possible. I know, Esther whispered. That's what makes this hard. You think love is about comfort? Her mother asked. No marriage is easy, my child. But betrayal will always leave a stain. You will never feel whole knowing you left someone who bled for your rise. Esther looked away. But Toby makes me feel like I'm not stuck in the past. Later that week, her father joined the conversation. They were seated on the veranda, Esther between her parents. Her father's voice was low.
Esther, I may not know Toby, but I know Daniel. I've watched how he carried our family when we had nothing. He never once asked for anything in return, not even your hand.
He loves you purely, her mother added. We won't support this marriage to Toby. Esther wiped a tear. Then I'll talk to my pastor. The next Sunday, she booked a private session with Pastor Amos. He listened quietly as she explained everything. Her relationship with Daniel, Toby's patience, her own confusion. When she was done, he leaned forward. Esther, God's path is sometimes strange. What if Daniel was the door and Toby is the house? What if Daniel's love prepared you to receive the right kind of man for your future? I don't want to hurt Daniel, she whispered. Then be honest, Pastor Amos said. But don't let sentiment marry you into regret. Eventually, her parents gave in not because they agreed, but because they saw her mind was made up. Daniel, however, never said a word. He attended the wedding, wore a quiet suit, and clapped when they said their vows. But inside, something died. The wedding was small but elegant. The church was decorated in gold and white. Soft music played in the background. Toby stood at the altar, proud and calm. Esther walked in with a radiant smile. But Daniel, sitting quietly in the third row, noticed the flicker of hesitation in her eyes. He smiled anyway. He watched as the vows were exchanged. Toby held Esther's hand. I promise to love you, to protect you, and to walk beside you in faith and purpose. You're my answered prayer. Esther replied, voice trembling slightly. I promise to honor you, to support you, and to grow with you in light and in truth. Daniel clapped with everyone else. But his hands, they felt heavier than ever. After the reception, as guests laughed and danced, Daniel quietly slipped away. Time passed. Daniel buried himself in his business. He worked longer hours, took risks, made smarter investments. He started an electronics import line, bought new tools for the neighborhood repairmen, trained young boys in small trades. He gave more than ever: food, clothes, school fees, but he never gave his heart again. Women came. Some beautiful, some humble, some persistent. They brought food to his shop, left notes at his gate, smiled at him at football centers, but he never let them close. His assistant, Musa, once asked, Daniel, why are you sorry? Why are you always alone? Don't you want someone to go home to? Daniel smiled. My heart is quiet now. Musa, I don't want to disturb it until it chooses to speak again. Meanwhile, Esther's new life wasn't as golden as it seemed. The first few months of marriage were calm. Toby was supportive. They prayed together, built a small routine, but soon, cracks appeared. Toby wanted her to quit her job at the firm and start a family immediately. Esther, on the other hand, wanted to build her career. I studied for many years, Toby, she said one night after a long silence at the dinner table. I want to become something too. Toby dropped his fork. Why do you speak like I'm holding you back? Because sometimes you are. He looked at her, wounded. I loved you because you were simple and humble. But now, you've changed. No, she said. I have ambitions too. Arguments grew. His kindness faded into criticism. Her silence became distance. One evening, Esther visited her parents, her face pale. Her mother hugged her tightly. What's happening, child? Mama, I don't know how I got here. Her father sat with her in the living room, eyes gentle.
Marriage is hard, we know. But are you happy, truly?
Esther broke down. I don't think I ever let my heart speak before I said yes. Her mother whispered, sometimes love is not what glitters, but what endures. 3 years passed. Daniel's business soared. He bought lands, built duplexes, started a scholarship fund in the community. Still, he went home alone every night. Then one morning, his gate rang. He stepped out and froze. It was Esther. She looked older, not in years, but in soul. They stood in silence. Can I come in? She asked. He nodded in affirmation. Inside, everything was neat, warm, successful but quiet. Esther sat on the edge of the couch. I thought I was choosing growth, she said slowly. But I grew away from peace. Toby and I are no longer together. Daniel sat opposite her, expression unreadable. I don't know why I came, she continued, eyes wet. I just kept thinking about you. Daniel exhaled deeply. I loved you, he said. I still do, in a way. But something broke when you left. I had to rebuild myself without hope. She looked down. Are you with someone now? He paused. Yes, he said. She's kind, patient. She met me when I had nothing left to give. Esther nodded, her smile sad. You deserve joy, she said. Daniel leaned forward. And so do you, Esther. I never hated you. I just learned to stop expecting the past to return. She wiped a tear and stood. Thank you for seeing me. As she turned to leave, Daniel spoke again. Not many friends become siblings, he said softly. You were both. She smiled without turning back, and walked into the afternoon light. Time, like an old river, had moved quietly, reshaping the banks of their lives. Months had passed since Esther last saw Daniel. And though her heart still beat with memories, her feet had learned to walk forward, even if her eyes sometimes looked back. In the small courtroom where her divorce had been finalized, she had once whispered to herself, this is not the ending I imagined. But life, she had come to understand, does not hand us blueprints. Only choices. Meanwhile, in a beautiful hall nestled on the edge of town, laughter and music bloomed like a garden in spring. Guests filled the air with joy, and flowers trailed across the marble floor like spilled sunlight. It was Daniel's wedding day. He stood at the altar in a tailored suit, calm, composed but undeniably moved. Lydia stood beside him. Radiant in white, a woman of grace, strength, and gentle love. She had come into his life not to replace, but to restore. As the officiating pastor smiled and spoke of love that bears all things and endures all things, Daniel's eyes scanned the room. He saw old neighbors, the widow he once helped, the boys he mentored, the faces of people whose lives he had quietly poured into. People who had never stopped praying that one day, Daniel would be repaid, not in wealth, but in peace. Esther, meanwhile, did not attend the wedding. She had been invited, but she declined gracefully, respectfully. That morning, she stood alone at the same spot by the community well where Daniel sat on hot afternoons, handing out cold sachets of water. She touched the necklace he gave her years ago, not in longing, but in honor. A quiet smile crossed her face. Esther said to herself, "You are my beginning, but not my forever." Later that evening, Esther walked into a local youth center. She had started volunteering there, teaching young people about law, life, and choices. Her pain had found a purpose. Her story, a second breath. Back at the wedding, Daniel and Lydia danced slowly beneath soft lights. The world faded around them. Lydia asked Daniel gently, "Are you happy?" Daniel replied with a wide smile, "I am, not because life went the way I planned, but because I finally understand why it didn't." The crowd applauded, a toast was raised, and Daniel stood before them. Daniel smiling, "To every soul who ever loved deeply and lost, may your heart never turn bitter. May your story not end in heartbreak, but in rebirth. Because love, when genuine, never truly dies, it just finds where it truly belongs." And somewhere across town, Esther, alone in her room, whispered a quiet prayer. "Thank you for the journey." Some stories don't end with who gets who. They end with who becomes who. Daniel became whole. Esther became wise. Lydia became home. And as the stars returned to the sky that night, Daniel wrote in his diary, "We live, we love, we choose. But not every good man will wait forever. Sometimes, love isn't lost. It's simply reassigned."